Well, hello there, and welcome to In Order of Preference, a new show in which I talk about a director, an actor, a musician, a general artist, and rank their work in order of my preference. Do you get it? It's a good idea, right? Today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite directors, Yorgos Lanthimos, one of the craziest, weirdest, most exciting directors in the world right now, in my opinion. He's about to release the film adaptation of My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which is one of my favorite books of last year. So in an attempt to distract myself from how impatient I am in waiting for this film, I thought I would make this list. Join me, won't you? Well, we all have to start somewhere, and unfortunately, Yorgos started here. Kaneta was released in 2005, and it is Lanthimos' first independently directed film. The synopsis of the film describes it as so. At a Greek hotel, a chambermaid, a man obsessed with BMW cars, and a photo store clerk attempt to document various struggles between a man and a woman. I went into this film completely blind and came out pretty much shrouded in the same darkness that I was before, and reading the synopsis didn't help me whatsoever. This thing wanders aimlessly for just over an hour and a half, and I have no idea what it is trying to say. This doesn't seem so much driven by plot as it is by oddly random scenes spliced together at the last minute. It is interesting to see Lanthimos' characterization come in so early in his career. I just wish it was done in a more effective way. Usually the peculiar lifelessness of Lanthimos' characters are to serve as a vehicle for the weight of the plot, and then this one they just seemed lifeless. Everything about this film is either completely bland and dull, or completely erratic and impossible to follow. The cinematography especially is absolutely unhinged at times. I know it's probably trying to show a kind of erratic nature, but it gave me motion sickness at times from how shaky the camera can be. Seriously, this camera was so shaky at times that I couldn't decipher what it was trying to show me. Yeah, there's not a lot I can say about this film because I'm really not sure what I can take away from it or salvage from it, but it really is a testament to how much Yorgos developed as a filmmaker. Alps was released in 2011 and is Yorgos' third film. This 90-minute drama follows a group of actors that start a unique business impersonating deceased people to help their clients through the grieving process. This is also the first of Lanthimos' films that start to kind of dip into this alternate reality shtick and this dystopian nature of how people can be. The film explores grief in a way that I've never really seen it be explored before, although it is rather stilted in its absurdity and morbidity. It pays off with the light-hearted, playful nature that it often tries to combat that with. The main issue I have with Alps is it has a lack of closure and catharsis to me. Most of Lanthimos' films are similar to Greek tragedies, following catastrophic events and all the characters into their eventual downfall, but with a large climax either at the end or somewhere along the way. Alps is one of the few films of Lanthimos' that I feel doesn't really have that, and it's something that I've really come to love about his films and therefore kind of miss when it's not there. With all that being said, Alps is a wonderfully weird film, and I would definitely recommend it to someone who's interested in easing themselves into Lanthimos' work. This is one of those times where I really need to remind you that this is just my opinion. The Favourite came out in 2018 and is probably Lanthimos' most regal and large film. Following Queen Anne of England as she falls sick while her close aide Sarah Churchill oversees the country's important matters, soon things take a turn as Sarah's cousin Abigail starts serving the Queen. While The Favourite still follows Lanthimos' characterization techniques, The Favourite is one of his films that seems the most character-driven rather than plot-driven. While there is still definitely a very substantial and weighty plot, the characters really carry the momentum of it. This is a particularly good thing when the performances are absolutely insane. Emma Stone, Rachel Weisz, Nicholas Hoult, and Olivia fucking Colman. I cannot describe how perfect Olivia Colman is in this film. She carries the whole thing on her back. She is incredible and I would die for her. It's also so pleasing to see a period drama meet such raunchy, nasty, queer themes. It really is refreshing to see. The surprisingly low ranking on this list for me is not a comment on the film's quality at all, because I think this is a damn near perfect film. It just so happens that I enjoyed his other films slightly more than this. But honestly, I couldn't recommend this film enough. It's probably the most accessible in a mainstream sense, so if you're a fan of any of the three main actresses, or period drama, or queer crazy fun, you will almost definitely love The Favourite. Killing of a Sacred Deer is a bizarre twist on a family drama. The piece follows the family of Colin Farrell as Dr. Stephen Murphy, a renowned cardiovascular surgeon who remains in contact with a young relative of a patient of his. The pair's relationship becomes sinister as the relative's intentions are revealed and Murphy has to make a monumental decision. There's not a lot that I want to say about the plot of this film because I really think everything should be experienced firsthand. The film was released in 2017 between The Lobster and The Favourite, arguably his two largest scale films, which is why I found it so surprising the Killing of a Sacred Deer is so small scale. It focuses on the catastrophic downward spiral of the characters and the family home and the household, rather than the environment around them. The film is almost definitely Lanthimos' most horror film, but do not expect it to rely on any common conventions or tropes of the horror genre, because it deviates from them completely. Instead, the horrific nature of this film comes from the moral dilemmas and the sinister natures and power of the characters. Specifically, Barry's second name I can't pronounce his performance as Martin, the relative of the patient. His character is a perfect representation of the classic horror antagonist, seeming very meek and small but being more powerful than you can actually imagine. I was on the edge of my seat from about 10 minutes into the film because you could just tell everything was about to go terribly wrong. But what's really thrilling is you don't really know how it's going to go terribly wrong, and then whatever you're expecting, it completely segues away from that at the last possible minute. Lanthimos is a master of subverting people's expectations and taking them on a completely different journey, and I think the reason I love this film so much is it's packaged as one kind of predictable thing, and when you open it, it just spirals downwards and never really stops until the very end. It's horrible and I fucking love it. So I may be biased because this was my first Lanthimos film, but it still does just hold a really special place in my heart. In a dystopian society, single people must stay at a bizarre hotel to find a mate within 45 days, or be turned into an animal of their choice. Like I said, this was my first experience with Lanthimos as a filmmaker, and it just blew me away. It was my first introduction to this absolutely bizarre way of showing characters and extraordinary expositions of plot. The score is absolutely haunting and accompanies the shocking, torturous nature of the film in such an effective way. While Colin Farrell definitely has his critics, and I often am one of them, I can't help but feel he is perfect in this film. To me, his character isn't really a character, he's just a vehicle for the plot to progress, and I can't help but feel that that's the point. I can't help but feel that the director wants you to look at why this is happening and what it means rather than who it's happening to. It's such an original idea and such a unique take on monogamy and how it affects our identities and individualism as human beings. The film is just under 2 hours, but it almost feels like an odyssey. The journey that the protagonist goes on is long and incredibly taxing, but ultimately so rewarding. Even though you don't get a full sense of closure at the end, it just leaves you wanting more of these insane characters in this bizarre world that they live in. This film is slightly polarizing in people's opinions. I've met people that love it, I've met people that hate it. I've met people who love Lanthimos but hate this film. I've met people who hate Lanthimos but love this film. And I think that's one of the reasons I love it so much. It's an experience for every single person, and a different one at that. So if you have a free evening, first 2 hours to watch the film and then the rest of the evening to ponder what the hell you just watched, I would really recommend giving this a go. Can we appreciate that the bottom of this list was his first film, and I gave that like a 1.5 out of 5, and the top of this list is his next film, which I think is a 5-star perfect film. This man wasted no time! Dogtooth came out in 2009, and it is a family drama thriller in which a father has locked his 3 adult children in a state of perpetual childhood by keeping them prisoner within the family compound. Over time, the children become bored, curious, and resentful, and long for the outside world to the point that some of them are driven to extreme measures. What can I say about this film? Most of Lanthimos' films share this message, but this was the first one to make people go, "Who the fuck hurt you, Yorgos? Who did this to you? What fucking happened?" The film mostly takes place on the family compound and sometimes goes to the father's place of work and Christina's home, an employee the father hires to sexually service their son. I know! But it makes it feel so immersive to the point that I just felt so claustrophobic and I just wanted to break out of my own skin. Oh my god, I hated it, but I loved it so much. The piece definitely seems like a blueprint for the rest of Lanthimos' work, but in my experience nothing really hit me as hard as Dogtooth. The performances are tortured and perfect and all seem connected to each other in these really twisted ways. The cinematography and colour grading of this film are so light and welcoming that the contrast of what's going on in the film is so chilling. Dogtooth, the most harrowing and disturbing of Lanthimos' films probably, is also surprisingly, probably the funniest. Lanthimos' comedy is usually quite subtle and subjective, but parts of this film are just outright hilarious, and I think they're supposed to be. But the humour doesn't provide relief from the morbidity of the situation, it almost adds to it. The more they acknowledge the absurdity of the situation, the more you want the characters to be able to break free from it. I thought about this film for a good 12 hours after I saw it, and then I had to watch it again, just to process it even more, and then I just went in a circle for a while. It is one of my favourite films of all time. Each frame is kind of burnt into my memory. Touching on my previous point about catharsis, Dogtooth feels like an hour and 40-minute long catharsis. Every single shot serves a bigger purpose, and the character of Christina's development and journey is just such a joy to watch, and by joy I mean it's fucking horrible. And would you look at that, we're at the end of the list. Time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it? Will I make more of these? Perhaps. What would you like to see? Let me know, and have a lovely day. See you later.